Welcome back. What is Latinidad? Well, by definition, it's the various attributes shared by Latin American people and their descendants without reducing those similarities to any single essential trait. But for many who identify as Afro and or indigenous, Latino culture is not representative enough or inclusive of all. Joining us now to discuss Latinidad during Hispanic Heritage Month this month, starting on September 15th, is Katelina Eccleston, aka Gata, reggaeton historian and producer. Welcome, Gata. Thank you so much for joining us. Gata is also a BronxNet alum, so I just wanted to shout her out real quick.
Thank you for having me. Oh, you look beautiful. Thank you.
You too, always vestida de rosado, looking gorgeous. Love it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to talk about this. You know, it's important to bring Afro Latinidad and an interconnection in our community with, you know, Afro Latinx, the Afro Latinx community, especially during Hispanic Heritage Month and even beyond this. So thank you for making the time. So first to start, Gata, we want to learn a little bit about you. So tell us about your platform, Reggaeton con la Gata, and your mission as a creator and historian.
Again, thank you so much for having me. Katelina Eccleston, or you can call me Gata for short. I'm the creator of the bilingual platform Reggaeton con la Gata that used to air here in BronxNet. Essentially, my platform focuses on the intersections of race, sex, gender, class, and everything in between, along with reggaeton music, going from the history to the present, because we can't know where we're going if we don't know where we come from, right? Or at least that's what I say. So yeah, that's who I am and what I do. That's reggaeton con la gata.
Thank you for that. And so let's get right into it. The discussion on unpacking anti-Blackness and Latinidad. It's a discussion that must be had in our community. What does this mean, and why is it important to do this during this month?
Well, and it's a great question. Why? It's because, sadly, because of the branding of Latinidad, there's just been a sort of erasure, this sort of idea that's continuously promoted that states that Black Latinos don't exist, which is simply couldn't be farther from the truth, right? Particularly during this month, I do see a lot of initiatives to kind of change that narrative, but I don't think enough has been done, both by mainstream and, underground. Of course, Gente Negra, we're doing all we can to give ourselves visibility and to, help each other out. But essentially, Latinidad and its branding, has a long history of erasing Black people, Indigenous people, and it's not only hurtful, it's violent. It has the potential to be very violent, because you can't humanize who you don't understand, and how can you humanize Black and Indigenous people if you don't know that they exist in these communities?
Exactly. Thank you for that, Gata. And when we're talking about, you know, erasure, we're talking about like growing up watching novelas where representation was lagging. Like we're talking about white Latinos only being shown in these novelas, and the fact that there's such an expanded amount of people, Afro Latino people in our own communities and our own families. And, you know, that's something that you can share off of experience, Gata. You are Afro Latina. You're representing your femme, like you're here, you have your platform about this. So can you share your own experiences with anti-Blackness? What has that looked like for an Afro Latina femme as yourself?
Wow. What doesn't it look like? I'm very grateful that my parents, who are Panamanian of Jamaican descent, have instilled in me, it's not what's wrong with you, it's how the world looks at you. You know what I'm saying? Be able to make that distinction. There is nothing wrong with you, mija, right? Essentially, my personal experience has been great, with my family, my upbringing. But as I enter these spaces professionally, I have found doors closed on me, right? We don't talk about race. Todos somos una raza. We're all one race. What are you talking about? We're all happy here. There's these different jingles and branding of Latinidad as happy, sexy, but not too sexy people who, all look a certain way, and the other people just simply don't exist. That again, I would classify as violent. And so my experience in this space, there's been ups and there's definitely have been downs. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And personally, like I had a coworker once, Afro Latino, Dominican. He was speaking Spanish to an older woman at an old job, and she was like, "You're not Hispanic. You're too dark. You know, like these are the type of things that, you know, our community deals with constantly, and like that's how it looks. So when we talk about mainstream media is one thing, but we talk about representation in our own community and acceptance in our own community. How can we do better to accept each other in Latinidad, Gata? If you can just give us a little 411 there.
Oh, it's crazy because this conversation of Latinidad, who's included and who's not, really changes when you're comparing, the experience in Latin America, lived experiences in Latin America versus the US. This is very much a US problem. Something that a lot of critics have been able to help me really rally into my brain, that when you go to Panama, no one's really asking the questions. No one's like, ¿hablas español? It's more so like, you're here, obviously you speak Spanish, you don't speak Spanish, that's more so the norm. And with that said, steps that can be done, I mean, there just needs to be more education on los raíces, right? Because of this mestizaje of Latinidad, and these continuous rhetorics of like all of us being one raza, and that some people even going as far as erasing history like esclavitud, slavery. Some people have gone that far. There are initiatives that really go there and erase history, right? This violent history that has generational impacts on the current generation. There needs to be a very long look in the mirror, an acceptance of, what our raíces are, good and bad. And then and only then, because as simple as that sounds, it really needs to start there. Some people really aren't, they're so far away from that, more than people really understand and are able to like jot down, like the
Right.
fact that some people really can't really comprehend that. Once we get there, then we can do more, but it's really hard for us to get there, and that would be, I'd say, the first step, getting there, being able to accept our reality of lived
Yeah.
experiences.
Absolutely. And you know, something important that you mentioned is the education of our folks. You know, a lot of folks grew up in an era where it's like, you know, the erasure was normal, and like learning this history of erasure was normal for them. And it's something that we learn, you know, in America about Columbus and all this stuff. We don't learn about the people that were here before him, you know. And the same thing with Dominican Republic. People were raised to believe that, you know, our Haitian brothers and sisters were a certain type of way, when in fact it's something completely different, you know. So Afro Latinidad, education on this, and using your platform is an important way to like spread that information and that education. So thank you for what you do as well. I wanted to expand on your work actually. In your work, you often touch on the interconnection of race, class, and reggaeton in particular. While it's now widely acclaimed, reggaeton was rejected by the mainstream media and Latin music establishment for decades. But of course, right now it's popular, and it was always popular in our hoods, in the Bronx in particular. It was a huge part of our upbringing here. Can you tell us more about this and the role that the hood played in reggaeton and culture and class and all of that?
There is no reggaeton without the hood, so shout out to the Boogie Down Bronx. No, reggaeton, you said it beautifully. Reggaeton is widely acclaimed now, but before it was considered música desagradable, bad music for women, and music that was for poor people's music, right? When really it's a genre that's extremely intelligent, does not come without pain and resistance. It is a medium of resistance. You can't say reggaeton without saying reggae, right? Reggae is where it all starts. Going back from Jamaica, it was a medium of resistance. Bob Marley was able to unite two opposing parties. The Jamaicans immigrated to Panama to work on the canal. They brought over the culture. They speak Patois in Panama. My grandfather speaks Patois. This is now. ¿Tú me entiendes?
Yeah.
So Panamanians using this as a medium of resistance against our private police union, El Deni, right? As you'll learn in Loud if you listen to that podcast. It went from Panama to Puerto Rico. Puerto Ricans were fighting against mano dura contra el crimen, or the iron fist against crime, which essentially put the precedent for the militarization of police. We're more interconnected than we realize, right? That affects our lives now, right? And goes on and so forth into Dominican Republic, Colombia, and the world, right? This music is extremely intelligent, and I'm very happy that it's getting its flowers now. I'm really trying to hold back because as Sonyi knows, there's so much more that I can say about reggaeton. I don't want to go over our time. But that's the gist of it. It's a music of resistance. It's sexy. It's powerful. It's beautiful.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you for that. And nobody better than Gata to say it just like she just said it. So thank you for that. You do have several projects. You just gave a shameless plug about one of those projects. It's called Loud, the History of Reggaeton. You are the historian and associate producer. Congratulations on that. Can you share more about your role on the podcast and just a little bit about the podcast itself?
I don't want to give too much away. No, shout out to the team first and foremost, Futuro, Luis Gallo, Marlene Bishop, Sandy Reino, Jean Montalvo, Sofia. Wow, the list just goes on. Spotify, Julio Palon. eh, wow, the list just goes on. I just have to first give them their flowers real quick. Shout out to the team. Um, the project is wow, it's a dream come true. We really were able to give the genre its flowers, really able to illustrate, the history, contextualize it in a way that incorporates, a lot of analysis, a lot of a lot of storytelling, right? It is a story. And being able to tell the history of reggaeton in a way that gives dignity to the story of these people, right? Dignity. I'm very big on dignity. I say that often, give the flowers. I hate this a I call it this history of giving people their flowers after they're gone. Let's give them to them right now. These are living legends. We are living in a very amazing time, and so we're honored to have Evie Queen, who is the mother of the genre, narrate the project. Check it out on Spotify, and that's where I'm going to stop.
Yes, thank you, Gata. And of course, give them their flowers while they can smell them. That is the quote right there. So before we go, how can people stay in touch with you and your work, Gata?
um, First and foremost, again, I have to say thank you, BronxNet. You actually were one of the first platforms to give me visibility. So thank you so much for having me y haciéndome caso. Please check out Reggaeton con la Gata on all social media platforms. We laugh, we cry, we have serious conversations. It is a safe space to go there in regards to race. It's a safe space to learn about race and discuss colorism and to figure out what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, evolve and become better people. So definitely check out Reggaeton con la Gata, and it's bilingual, para que sepas.
Ueva, gracias, mi amor, y te doy tus flores hoy y todos los días. Thank you for everything that you're doing for the culture.
Gracias, corazón, for having me.
Claro, of course. We'll be right back here on Open BXRX Tuesday. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month.